Hi everyone, Carter Krishna are here for the Kingfisher on Beyond the 90. Miami FC 1-0 victors at Pitbull Stadium against the Charleston Battery, arguably the best team in the USL Championship this season, and certainly the most high-flying team, right? The team that's capable of scoring goals in bunches. This comes just days after losing to what entering the match was the worst team in the USL Championship, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, a team that has 8 points now on the season, 6 of which are against Miami FC, only 2 points against the rest of the league. How do you explain these two results in succession? And I would also throw in that Miami FC beat Loudoun in May. Loudoun United at the time was the top team in USL. And quite honestly, it's the only match Loudoun has played poorly in all season. Even their subsequent losses to Charleston and Loudoun City in league competition, they played significantly better than they did against Miami FC. Miami FC also has lost to Birmingham Legion at home in the last month. So how do you explain all of this? Let's go to the match last night, and then I'm going to give some theories as to explaining Miami FC. Effectively, I mean, the easy narrative is, oh, well, they play to the level of their opposition. So I think immediately, third minute, I saw, and it wasn't much, not much was made of it, but I saw, being at the match, I saw a shirt grab by a Charleston defender on Lucas Milano that I think very easily could have been called a penalty because it impeded Milano's ability to make a run. That would have released him on goal. So immediately Charleston is on the back foot. Blanco gets taken down a few minutes later. Miami is playing with a lot of energy to open the match. Given the anger about the result the other night in St. Pete, 13th minute, Blanco, really good corner. Chance comes for Miami FC. They don't put a ball on frame. 20th minute, Bonfilio is taken down what appears to be in the area, or maybe right on the edge of the box. That's a penalty shout, no call. So the first 20 minutes, Miami FC looks like gangbusters. Quite frankly, they never looked this good in the match in St. Pete. They looked only this good from minutes 45 to 60 in Pawtucket the week before in the win over Rhode Island United, or minutes 46 to 60, right at the beginning of the second half. So there's something about Miami FC when they come out of the dressing room. They either come out of the dressing room really lackadaisical. We saw that in the losses to Detroit and Indy, and in the first half, and then the second half coming out of the dressing room really lackadaisical, really off against Birmingham and Tampa Bay in those losses, those recent losses. But then their matches where they just come out like gangbusters. As I said, Malloy had a chance from distance for Charleston in the 22nd minute. Hamid made a really good save on M.D. Myers in the 41st minute. That was probably Charleston's best chance in the first half. So after about minute 20, it settles into a pattern. Charleston has much more of the ball. They are getting the better chances, but they're not getting the kind of chances you're used to seeing Charleston get. I want to stress that. Because, yes, Charleston had chances. Yes, they had more of the ball, but this was not in any way a vintage Charleston Battery performance. Bonfilio has a chance right before halftime. So that's the first half. The second half, immediately Miami has a chance. And from minutes 46 to minute 51, when the spectacular goal went in, you had passages of play where Miami FC looked like... I had not watched a minute of the Club World Cup till yesterday. I watched much of the Al Hilal Real Madrid match yesterday. It's the first action of this World Cup I've watched. Now, I know there's different circumstances around this Club World Cup, so I don't want to make direct comparisons, but Miami FC in minute 46 to 51 looked like they could be playing in that competition. That's how good their build-up play was. That's how high the energy levels were. That's how good the movement was off the ball. Guys making themselves available. Guys releasing. You're in a situation also where Miami FC loses possession. There's a high press and an effort to win the ball back. You get a goal in the 51st minute. 56th minute, Miami has a chance to make it 2-0. Blanco, Sebastian Blanco, who again for me was really, really good yesterday. That's something we're going to get to in a minute. He could have laid that ball off and maybe played a runner in. I'm not sure who the runner was actually, but could have played a player that was making streaking on the right side in. Instead, he decided to go alone, take a shot, and it was dealt with. Dalton Newton has a great chance, keeps his head down off a corner. We've seen him score goals like that this season. Then you're in a situation where it's 2-0 Miami FC before Charleston even really gets a shot. And I think their first really good chance of the second half, 70th minute, Cal Jennings, who constantly has scored goals for against Miami FC, has scored. I was just going through it with people last night, how many goals he had scored against Miami FC. Of course, that was when he was wearing green, or yellow and green, right? He was wearing the Rowdies colors. Yesterday he was wearing yellow and white, and it didn't, yellow and black actually, and white. Didn't actually work for him yesterday. Turf Monster gets him in the corner at FIU Stadium. He probably is in on goal. Tough angle, but it's Cal Jennings. Bill Hamid, great goalkeeper. There's a good chance he scores still. 70th minute. Then in the 85th minute. So then Miami kind of drops. You see some substitutions. Mikey Lawrence came in and did really well holding the ball up. Great. That was a really good tactical substitution from Gaston Mandoni. Brings Bonfilio off. I thought that was a mistake, but he puts Lawrence on, and Lawrence can be a bit of a battering ram at times. This is a different role than he had in previous seasons for Miami FC when he was brought in on bad teams. Local guy, right, from Miramar, as we've mentioned before, brought in to score goals, potentially. Now on this team, he's being brought in to specific purpose. You're in the lead in matches, or you're trying to see out matches that are level. Just hold the ball. Make runs, hold the ball, make yourself available. Press high, show some energy pressing high. I thought he played pretty well when he came on. Jonathan Ricketts commits a very bad foul in the 85th minute. And I want to mention this because this is the way Charleston in matches they don't particularly play well in the last few seasons. Last 2 seasons since Aaron Malloy came to Charleston have sometimes gotten the get out of jail card, a bailout card, because Malloy is the best dead ball specialist in the USL Championship. So Malloy decides to take it on his own. We've seen him score goals from that area of the pitch, but this was a little tight of an angle, and just misses the frame. Now, Blackstock, this may not have been noticeable on television. This is part of the benefit of being at a match. Blackstock makes a run at the far post. If Malloy picks him out, which he very easily could have done, and that's Aaron Malloy's set piece taking is second to none in the league. As I said, I think Blackstock scores. He didn't pick him out. He went for the far post, tried to score, but Blackstock's making the run. So it's like basically the trajectory of the ball is here. Blackstock is here. If he just does this, which Malloy is capable of doing, Blackstock's in. I don't think Hamid saves that. So that was close. And then Charleston had a couple kind of half chances. They started playing after that, and there were 6 minutes of stoppage time, not the 10 minutes the other day that Miami FC had to deal with because Miami FC was wasting time in St. Petersburg, desperate to get a result against Tampa Bay. They were all kinds of shenanigans, and that's when you get 10 minutes of stoppage time. This was 6 minutes, which was still, I think, a bit much, but they saw it out. So how do we explain Miami FC beating up on Loudoun, beating up on Charleston, losing to Birmingham, losing to Tampa Bay, which nobody does? I mean, even at this point, I think the best USL League One clubs would not lose to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay goes to Naples on July 4th. At this point, I fully expect Naples to win that match, and that's in the Jägermeister Cup. How do we explain that? Well, I think it's a couple of things. So I mentioned Sebastian Blanco earlier. Blanco did not play in that match in St. Petersburg, and it was noticeable. He didn't play, if I recall correctly, in the match in Pitbull Stadium against Tampa Bay earlier in the season, and it was noticeable. The losses to Detroit and Indy, where Miami FC looked totally out of sorts, Blanco was out of sorts, right? He was not in proper playing shape. He wasn't fit. And it was obvious, right? So I think as good as there are other pieces on this Miami FC team. The key is Sebastian Blanco. This is an MLS DP level player until a few years ago. This is a guy, there are a lot of guys who drift from MLS into USL for whatever reason or another. Sometimes they get paid more in USL, actually. It's not necessarily dropping down in a lot of cases. I know a lot of fans think it is, but MLS has a salary cap, and for some clubs, salary cap exemptions are made for some clubs, like whatever they're called, Inter Miami. But for some other clubs, there's a hard cap. So the guys in the middle get squeezed, they end up in USL. But you don't very often have guys who are MLS DPs for a long period of time and won MLS titles and won trophies in the league that end up as kind of a featured player in USL. And I have to admit, I was dubious about it after those first few games. I said, okay, he's shot. And he left Portland a few years ago. He went back to play in Argentina. But now that he's feeling his rhythm again, he's obviously comfortable with the game in the United States, Sebastian Blanco. And he's a guy, let's remember, who had a pretty good career in Europe before he went to Portland, right? He was a very good player in Ukraine, played in Europe, European competitions, Europa League, I think. I don't think he ever played in Champions League, but Europa League. And then played in the Premier League for a cup of coffee. Not many guys in USL Championship playing in the Premier League. Cameron Lancaster, the all-time leading goal scorer, or active goal scorer, I should say, in the league. He played one match in the Premier League, and we talk about that often. There are a few guys who have. I think Kyle Scott, who plays for Orange County, he played, I think, one match in the Premier League. Blanco played 5 or 6 matches, if I'm not mistaken, for West Brom in the 14-15 season before he came to MLS. So he's able to dictate tempo, and he has an understanding, right? A reading of the game that often the defenders he's facing don't have. Lucas Milano and him partner very well. They played together, obviously, in Portland together. Bonfilio, I think, is another key because he's a really kind of multifaceted number 9, but he's a number 9 that depends on good service and a high energy play around him. And then I think the other real key here for Miami FC in terms of their performances and why they perform better against the Loudons and the Charlestons and not against the Tampa Bay, right? It's still, there is still no getting around the fact that Miami FC dropped 6 points to Tampa Bay, and that is going to be a factor when we get to October, because nobody else in the Eastern Conference is going to drop 2 matches to Tampa Bay. I'm convinced of that. I think there might be some teams that lose a match, they split 3-3 or 4-2 or 4-1, right? The Tampa Bay gets a draw for them, and they only get 4 points off of Tampa Bay. But even with Lewis Hilton back, I still think the Rowdies are a player or 2 away from, unless Manu Arteaga really gets going, which he could, he's capable of. But I've just seen too much this season. There's just too much unevenness from Tampa Bay. So the other key for Miami FC that I want to mention is, I think, when the back 2, Dalton Knutson and Bolu, play as well as they've played in some of these matches, and Miami FC is conceding possession. This is the key against better teams, the Loudons, the North Carolina FCs, because Miami dominated North Carolina FC also, right? And North Carolina FC's goal came off of a kind of a random, good Mikey Maldonado, great throw in, Paco Craig, who we're very familiar with, obviously, South Florida. But I think what we're finding is Miami FC is really comfortable without the ball at times, but when they're on the ball, they want to play quicker than they did earlier in the season, and they have the ball strikers. They have multiple technical ball strikers. Romero, Vasquez. I mean, obviously Blanco, obviously Milano, guys who are really, really good technically. Mercado is pretty good technically, like really good technical players. So they don't have the athleticism or the or maybe even the pace, or they don't have the pace of other teams in the USL Championship. But if they can sit in, and then in matches where they're able to break fairly quickly, maybe they don't have the pace to break quickly, but they have the mindset, and you're going to see perfectly placed counter-attacking balls. You're going to see perfectly placed passes, and they can play in spells. So it's not necessarily always playing on the counterattack. It's playing, okay, there's 10 or 15 minutes, generally coming out of the dressing room, whether it's first half or second half, 10 or 15 minutes where we're going to pick our spots. We're going to be, we're going to play with high energy. We're going to try and maintain possession during those 10 or 15 minutes. And we're going to beat you with a ball strike. We're going to beat you with a goal from distance. We're going to beat you with a set piece. We're going to beat you with a passage of play where our balls are so perfectly weighted and so perfectly struck, you can't stop us. Then we're going to fall back and try and defend. So it's different really than counterattacking, and it's working against better teams. So what do we see? Like, is this going to continue all season? I think it probably will. I think Miami FC's, it's not playing to the level of your opposition. It's your specific skill set might fit playing better opposition is what it is.